as we begin this episode of my memoirs from the 12th chapter of Hebrews. It says, "My son, do not despise the chastening of the Lord, nor be discouraged when you're rebuked by him. For whom the Lord loveth, he chastens, and he scourges every son who he receives." You know, I'm very transparent. I like to tell people both the goods and the bad. I like to tell people, really, I think they can gain from learning how your mistakes God has forgiven and God has been there for you. And so I want to share with you today some chastening that's hard to share, because I didn't realize how severe the chastening the Lord had for me until I began to look back. Sometimes we gain more by looking back than we ever knew at the time. You know, God gave me some wonderful training, and he gave me some wonderful biblical training, and then he gave me training in my master's and my PhD. But all along, the main thing he gave me was a wonderful gift of preaching. And every time I used that gift, God blessed it. The first church I preached in, he poured out his blessing, and it went from 13 people to nearly 300 in a matter of 4 years. And there were other reasons I'll tell you next week about other reasons that caused that church to really grow. But every time I left one of the 5 churches he called me to, I thought I had a good reason. And I did. Some of them, there were real good reasons. And some of them, there were not good reasons. And the first church I left to, we were losing our family. It was growing so fast that I had 4 children. I can remember 4 particular days that I told my 9-year-old son I couldn't play catch because there were church activities that were pressing. And you know, you got to decide at that point, what's more important? Where's your first ministry? My wife and I began to pray about that because it was really coming in on our lives. And lo and behold, the college where I had come from asked me to come back and administrate a couple of departments and teach a class or 2. And so I left that pulpit where God had really blessed. And within 3 months, we moved to a house real close to the college, so it could be convenient for me primarily. But it didn't have a backyard, and so my kids are playing in the front yard in the street. And my oldest son got run over by a truck, and it crippled him so bad that it was 2 years before he could take a step. And to this day, he still has problems with his legs as a result. Now, I didn't see that as chastening. I saw that as a truck driver that didn't see my son, and he ran over him. Well, we decided that, hey, we got to get the kids out off this street. My wife and I were both raised in the country. We knew something about raising kids in the country. So we moved to a gravel road, and they'd ride the school bus, and it was a good decision because the next 6 years, it was the formative years of their lives. And to this day, when they talk about things that have happened in their lives, they talk about living on the mountain. We were called a real live Walton family. And it was really good. But Daddy was suffering. Daddy was not exercising the gift God had given me. So I went through a 3-year dry spell there. And the church in Illinois, for the 6 years, but then 3 years were really bad. And the church in Illinois asked me to come back. So I went back to the same church, pastoring the one that I had. And once again, the preaching ministry just took off. And the church exploded. And it exploded to the point that it went from about 200 there till we built a 850-seat auditorium, $2 million building. God was blessing this country preacher, and the people were responding to my hillbilly way I preached, and God really was using that. Well, after 11 years, I was under pressure from 2 men in the church that really brought pressure down on me, and I didn't know how to handle that. I didn't know how to take that to the Lord. I didn't know how to wait upon the Lord. I reacted in a very negative way, and I left the church. And within 3 months, I had a heart attack, and I'm in the hospital. And we ended up losing our house, car repossessed, no employment. And at that time, I still wasn't trying to figure out, what is it I'm doing wrong? finally, my wife, after 3 years, she got on the computer and found a little church south of Chicago that entertained the idea of my candidating. And I candidated, and they called me, and the first Sunday there was 30 people there, and 8 years later we're running 2 services, built 2 new buildings, bought 9 acres of land, and God just poured out his blessing, and the preaching once again was being honored by God. And then I ran into a problem. I called an associate pastor that wanted to be pastor, and he undermined the ministry, and they sort of decided, well, maybe he'd make a better pastor. And yet they never called him as pastor, and the church split up, and that was a shame for him, for me. And then from 204 to 207, I'm at Drift again. And I did go to Oklahoma and work with the Indians there. But in 207, a little country church in Illinois, there were people there I had pastored before, and they called me as pastor. The first Sunday, there was 25 people. By the time I left there 8 years later, the church every Sunday was packed out. God blessed the gift again, and the preaching was reaching out and touching people. And I was benefiting from that, and it was all where it should be. Then I received an invitation to come to Oregon, your country. And I rationalized that there was scripture there that showed me that I needed to come here. And I began to teach in a Christian high school here. And, you know, there's an axiom that God has a blessing on his word, but that doesn't mean his servant will be blessed. I don't know whether you've ever heard that, but the word has a blessing, but that doesn't mean the servant is automatically blessed. And then God brought in the most severe chastening that I've ever experienced in my life. And that is, since 1994, I was diagnosed as a bipolar person. My mother was bipolar, my grandfather was bipolar. But the 2 doctors in my church in Illinois, they recognized that I was having some problems, and they put me through a psychological psych evaluation, and they realized that so I took 6 months off, and they got me into a medicine that held me for 22 years. And 22 years there was no problems. But last year, the medicine quit working, and the therapeutic level dropped. And all of a sudden, the bipolar problem returned in gangbuster. And for the last 5 months, I have been in a medical facility for emotional and mental disturbances. And that became the extreme chastening that I feel like the Lord brought in. But you know, we can't see clearly until we stop and we look back and we say, Lord, what is all this about? What have you been, what have you been trying to teach me? He gave me a wonderful gift, and every time I would run away from the pulpit, he brought in chastening. Now, one thing I didn't tell you, that I had a little country church when we moved to the country. And I took on that little church and stayed with the college. And it too grew and grew. But the minute I got real busy and turned that church over to a student, my house burned down. So that was another chastening that I didn't mention, but that came in. Well, I have now come to the conclusion that all of this chastening is because I ran off from the giftedness that God had called me. And we're not supposed to do that. God has gifted all of us and called us to certain things. Let me read a little more here in Hebrews. It says this: Now no chastening seems to be joyful for the present, but grievous. Nevertheless, afterward it yields the peaceful fruit of righteousness to those who have been trained by it. Now, I know the last 5 months I have gone from being really sick to the doctors now saying I'm almost well. So I see this going on. There's fruitfulness now in my life. This fruit of righteousness is that I really think I'm a better person before the chastening. But I think laying in that bed, I could look back and see what the Lord had done all through these years, that he was trying to keep me back in the pulpit. Now, my prayer every morning is, God, let me preach again. Give me another chance. I'm not sure if he will, but I'm praying that way. I'm still vibrant. I still have a good mind. I study more now than I think I've ever studied. I pray more than I've ever prayed. And so that righteousness that he's looking for, I think is coming. Last Sunday, my pastor preached a message that I think was designed for me. It was out of 2 Peter 3:18 about growing in grace and knowledge in the Lord Jesus Christ. And he made one statement in there that just really hit home. And the statement was, we're not past the time in our life that we can still be growing in grace and knowledge. And I got to thinking about that. I am right now, as I look back over my shoulder, growing in grace and knowledge. The grace of the Lord has me in a place where I'm being healed. And the knowledge is that I can look back and see what he has been doing with my life. And so grace and knowledge is something that goes on with you until the Lord says, come home. And I thank Mark for bringing that to my attention. Now that's going to conclude today's edition of my memoirs. I just want to tell you, next week, I want to tell you about that church in Sugar Grove. The first time we went there, we had 13 prayer cards. And within a year and a half, it exploded up to about 300. Now, I wasn't totally responsible for that because there was a couple in that church with Campus Crusade. And I'll tell you about that. Campus Crusade always taught people how to share their faith. And they were very faithful in sharing their faith. Well, converts are not disciples. Disciples are made. Converts can come and make a commitment. But it takes time, like Jesus did with his disciples, to produce people that can walk with the Lord. Well, the problem was, our church, he taught a lot of people in the church how to become obstetricians, but my wife and I were the only pediatricians. And that was a major problem. I'll tell you about that next time. This is Jim Harper.